Recently, there's an article that's been going around and by relatively unknown horsemen talking that really the reason why you shouldn't be working on a casual rein, you should be working on tight reins, is for expedient transitions. Gareth and Cherokee are going to show you that you need good mental emotional connection to your horse, that you don't need reins at all for quick transitions. You need to become a really good rider to make good quick transitions. The reins are just there for shape. So if you guys get confused about what your reins are for creating a posture. Our seat makes the transitions. The smoother that we can make the transitions in our seat, the smoother we can make transitions with our horse. So Gareth hasn't touched his reins once. If you're counting strides here, take a close look at this video. I think Gareth said he was planning on counting 10 strides in between transitions. And he hasn't had to make a downward transition with his reins once. Now, I don't know why you would need your reins to make an upward transition, but we definitely don't need our reins to make a downward transition. So if you count Cherokee's strides.
You could be talking about engagement, but you can get a horse engaged through transitions, then you don't need to.
Gareth is saying that when you get a horse engaged through transitions, again, you don't need short reins for that. You know, I mean, if you're looking for quick fixes and all that, you know, maybe you do want short reins. But if you're really looking at this from a horsemanship perspective, things should be happening in your seat. Our reins are for shape, our reins are for creating a posture in our horse to create different bends and transitions within a gait, for using our reins to control and slow down our horse because our seat isn't effective. We're probably not safe enough to be working on this advanced of a transition anyways. And if you're working on transitions with too tight short reins now, it's only a matter of time before you don't have enough power in your hands and arms to control your horse's speed, which means you'll probably have to fall into that trap of riding with a bigger bit or something, you know, something that goes to a territory that horsemanship doesn't necessarily need to visit. See, Cherokee happily draws, you know, extends out. Gareth slows him down. Gareth is still turning and making transitions at the same time. And once again, he still hasn't touched his reins. So if you guys are on the bandwagon of we need tight, short reins for transition, this is just one more thing I'd like you guys to have a really close look at. If you have this type of control of your horse's transition, then you guys probably are ready to ride in something more advanced like a bozal. Or if you're choosing to ride in a bit, this would be a nice point to move to a snaffle. But again, if you're using your reins for control, it's only a matter of time before you get dumped on your head. Okay, so we're going on close to 4 minutes now, and Gareth still hasn't had to touch his reins for steering or for downward transition. So now we're walk, trot, and lope. So if you can kind of imagine, this is sort of our median casual rein riding. You can just imagine if Gareth were to pick up on those reins now, you'd be able to create some pretty extensive shaping and postures in Cherokee. But the purpose of this video is to show you that you do not need two short reins to make transitions. That's 4.5 minutes, and the only time Gareth touched his reins was for that backup.
So, like, obviously there's still a time, but the point is that is not the time for the rein contact. When you're doing finesse moves, absolutely. So if I'm going to now go from that to working on things like haunches in, absolutely the appropriate time is to take up a contact haunches in, so that your horse has a clear understanding. You're putting in multiple cues at once. But the intimation is that you can't control, or you can't rate a horse's speed. Surprisingly, this was actually a guy that's known as a Western trainer. If you're controlling your horse through reins, for most Western disciplines, you're going to have a hard time. They need to be answering to your seat because reining, for example, is, you know, willfully guided, which means you're not hanging on your reins. Yes, you've got a curb bit, so it's easier to have a light contact, but the training aspect of it all comes down to building that contact with the seat and communication with the seat.
And so what that requires is for you to become a thoughtful rider about how you do your transitions, practice your transitions enough, be fit enough to make those transitions. If you're not very flexible up there and you don't have control over your seat and your legs, you're probably gonna have to fall into a terrible habit of balancing on your reins for your lack of fitness. So there's a couple of things that you can do to help make your transition smooth out. One, trust your horse in a safe space to not need to hang on to your reins. Two, teach your horse to follow a pattern. Three, try and cause your horse to have you only pick up the reins if they ignored your seat. So we train everybody with eyes, belly button, leg, rein only if we need it. So that way we can save those reins for the special day when our partnership is good enough and we're mentally, emotionally, and physically fit enough to be able to create shapes and ride more advanced maneuvers using our reins. Just a little bit of food for thought on short reins. We could probably go on for hours and hours, but I hope this gives you some help.
Our plan today was to do the video on slowing down a horse's canter down to a lope, but I think this one's kind of more crucial, so we'll do a discussion on that in the coming week. But it's the same thing, you need to be fit enough to actually ride your horse at a canter for a long enough time to be able to expect them to carry it slower.